Well, hi there. My name is Pat Fader, and I will be your instructor for ITNET 110, Section 900. Thank you for taking the time to watch us. I'll hopefully make it worth your while. And the goal this is by the end of the screencast that you'd have an idea what we're doing in ITNET 110 and what the expectations and deliverables are. So here we go. Um, my name is Pat Fader. I've been teaching at MATC now for 16 years. Prior to teaching, at MATC, I actually taught up in Eau Claire for a couple years, and prior to that, I worked as an engineer doing hardware and software design. While I've been at MATC, I've taught everything from computer programming classes. I helped develop our PC repair course. Helped develop our VMware VCP course. I helped develop our Cisco classes up in Eau Claire. Consequently, I'm certified in VCP, CCNA, MCSE, MCSA, and CompTIA A+. I have a number of certifications. I think they're beneficial. Are they necessary? Not 100% necessary, but I do think they're beneficial when it comes to looking for a job. So I want to walk through our class right now, and I'm starting on the most important page in Blackboard, which is the announcements. This is my primary way of communicating with you. Typically, I'll configure the announcements so that you also get an email as well. So you can see right off the bat that you're going to need to buy a textbook and a lab sim. I'll have to update this. I believe the lab sims have jumped up from $79 to $84 if you buy them online, and it's a little bit more in the bookstore, but not much. As far as the textbook goes, I have the ISBN there, ISBN number. If you haven't bought it yet, make sure you check out secondary resources like Amazon and eBay. I'm pretty sure you can get it for an extremely reasonable price. So you can tell I'm a tightwad. I was looking to save a few bucks. Probably the best thing to do, well, let's just see what I have here in our announcements. So I have the resources listed. I'll address this. So this is actually addressed in the second assignment of the semester, but to do the lab activities and even the midterm and final, you need two Windows 7 virtual machines. You can download mine if you want to, and I should delete this posting. I have a Google Doc that I put together that's going to run through the steps on how to, there we go, it's gone. That'll run through the steps on how to download the virtual machines or get them on campus. All right, this is very similar to what you'd get in one of my face-to-face classes on day number 1. So that I try to stay on task, I'll just stick with the syllabus. Oh, actually, I have the syllabus right here. Here we go. Let's run through the syllabus together. I have a website. An email address is the best way to get a hold of me. You can try, if you call me, basically what'll happen is it goes to voicemail, and voicemail gets emailed to me, so it's almost the same as getting an email. And I have office hours as well, so we're going to check out some of this information on my website. I've put together a number of resources for ITNET 110. First off, I have the orientation, which you're watching now. I have some notes on Windows 7 imaging. This relates to Chapter 2. And before I forget, Chapter 2 is a real bear. I almost feel like it should be Chapter 12 or Chapter 20 or Chapter 202, but Chapter 2 Chapter 2 in the book was a bad place to put some of this content. So I'll make a note in the second week of the semester as you're reading through Chapter 2, shoot for the big picture and don't get all bogged down in the details, because there's more there than you need. You will get very familiar with using VMware Workstation. If you've had any other IT courses here, you've already used VMware Workstation, but I did put together a screencast and how to create your own Windows 7 virtual machine, so you can check this out. I also put together a screencast of just on critical skills, how to manage and configure VMware Workstation. For what it's worth, when I recorded these, I think we were at VMware 9 or 10. Now I believe VMware Workstation 12 just came out, so the concepts are the same. You just might find some of the settings in a slightly different location. Okay. I guess I'm just kind of running through a lot of stuff on the first page here, but that's okay. Um, I do, when it comes to doing the hands-on activities this semester, you can either, like I mentioned previously, use two Windows 7 virtual machines, or you can use some of our pre-configured virtual machines. If I have a screencast on how to use our pre-configured VMs, and I also even, well, some of this stuff you'll hit later in assignment number one. Uh, the, one of the things we use a textbook for is I like the students to do all the hands-on activities in the textbook on their own virtual machines. Do I grade it? No, I don't grade it. Should you do it? Absolutely. You'll learn more, in my opinion, in doing the hands-on activities than actually reading the content, because if you're anything like me, when I do something, I typically tend to remember it a lot longer than if I just read it out of a book. So I hope that you do that, all the hands-on activities in your book, and these lab notes were written to help you with those activities. So if I jump into them, if you just start at the beginning, and you'll visit some of this in assignment number two, but I have some notes on how to use our virtual machines. When you get to chapter one, the notes under chapter one will help you get through the hands-on activities in the chapter one of your book. So before beginning the labs in chapter one, make sure to set your Windows 7 virtual machine to snapshot chapter one snapshot. You'll see a screencast on snapshot, so don't worry about that. And again, these are all the activities. What this is this doesn't outline every single step in chapter one. What this has are the things that you need to modify or know about in order to do activity 1-1. So when we get to some chapters, like chapter two, activity one, I just have one note. The DVD you need to install is located on the Windows 7 desktop of your virtual machine. So with that in mind, you're able to do activity one out of your textbook. Activity 2-2 in chapter two. There's a couple of things you need to know. For example, in step 5, I guess we've rewritten some of the steps. So again, if you use this material with what's in your textbook, you'll be able to do the hands-on activities in your book. All right. I feel like I've gotten sidetracked a bit, so let me just rein myself in and jump back to the syllabus. The takeaway so far is that doing the activities in your book are important. They're important enough that we actually created this 70-page document to help students do the hands-on activities in their book. We've also created some virtual machines for students so that so the activities in their book will run smoother than if they just use their own virtual machines. Okay, we're back to the syllabus. So we looked at my website. Now we're going to look at my office hours, which is actually just a link off my website. If I can find my website, here we go. Okay, so office hours, Tuesdays and Wednesdays 10 to noon, M408. Also, as long as we're on this page here, when it comes to getting our pre-configured virtual machines, or even working with our virtual machines, you can do that at home or on campus. We have, so far, I've got some information about our North, South, and Milwaukee campuses, about which machines have VMware Workstation loaded and our virtual machines on it, and then also I guess that's about it, and where the VMs are located on those machines. So I like the academic support centers more than stopping by like I mean, you're always welcome to stop by my office hours, don't get me wrong. The nice thing about the academic support center is, they're open from like 8 in the morning till 8 at night. They've got much longer hours than I do. We have a lab assistant that's here to help. He's around, and I'll have him post his hours or update his hours in this calendar here as well. And you'll also see that some faculty will put their open lab hours in here. They won't be able to necessarily help you with the course content. That's my job. But if you're just looking for a classroom to go work in as opposed to one of our academic support centers, you'll have those options once this calendar gets updated. Okay, that takes care of our office hours. And I'm trying my best to stay on task by just using the syllabus here. Course intro, what does a course cover? Basic Windows 7 configuration, installation, managing users, managing the system. I think it's a really good class, even for the person that feels that they know everything there is to know about Windows 7. I can guarantee you're going to pick content up that a typical user just wouldn't learn about. I hope you read through the whole syllabus carefully. I wrote it, and so it was painful writing it. So I hope you I hope you spend the time checking it out. The best way to start off with any of my online classes is always to do the first assignment. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. Actually, maybe we'll jump there right now. Let's just take a quick peek at assignment number one. Now, my assumption is you're watching the screencast because you're doing assignment number one. But for the few percent of the people that aren't, assignments are posted under assignments, and this is kind of nice. It is the fall and spring. No, it's just a spring semester. So this is a big to-do list of items you're going to run through to get ready for the class. I have you watching screencasts on how to use VMware Workstation, um, how to download VMware Workstation, which you could get for free, how to access our CBT Nuggets. I'll demo that in a little bit. This is a great perk here. Microsoft DreamSpark. We have a Microsoft DreamSpark accounts created for all of our students, which means this program gives students access to free, fully functioning Windows operating systems. You want Windows 7, 8, 10. You want Server 2012, 2016. You can get the fully functioning copies off of the site. The only catch is it's for academic purposes. You cannot download Server and take it to work and say, "Hey, boss, I can save you $1,000 in licensing. Just use my product key." Yeah, the product key will work, but you are in violation of why Microsoft gave you the product, and I'm sure your boss wouldn't be happy when he got a knock on his door from Microsoft. Anyways, the last part of assignment number one, I just have you posting some information about yourself in our discussion board. It's not huge, but again, my thought is if you go through all these activities here, you're going to have a real good feel for what, the tools that we're using and the resources that you have available to you as a student at MATC, which is particularly important for an online class because it's easy for online students to kind of miss out on some content. The second week of the semester, you're actually going to do assignment number two, and I'll save that for later. Okay. I've already mentioned you're buying two things, a textbook and a lab sim. Let's take a look at the lab sim real quick. These lab sims are a fantastic product. So it's a web-based tool, and I already have my copy running somewhere. Here it is. There we go. So I've already accessed my test out account, and I'm running the Windows Client Pro Lab Sim product. For what it's worth, this includes some Windows 8 material as well, and I'm guessing they'll probably add Windows 10 as time goes on to this. That's a nice thing about a web-based product is they can update it real time versus a textbook, revision 1, revision 2, revision 3. This is just a lot more real time. But you will see that this product, and what you're going to do is you have access to the product is comprised of lecture, that's the little movie screen icon, demonstrations, so just how to create how to log on locally or how to create a user account as an example. It consists of practice quizzes, little pencil and paper there, and also hands-on activities. Pay attention to this because this will save you some work. All that I'm grading this semester out of the lab sim are the hands-on activities, the mouse icon. There's about 60 of these that you're going to do out of this tool. Should you, and you're going to do sections 1 through 11. Should you watch the videos and stuff? Absolutely. I think they really complement what's in the book. And I try to tie together, the book is kind of the driving force in our course. We will progress through the book, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then as we go through each of those chapters, I will tie in which lab sims relate to that chapter of the book. So you can either just, track along with the book, or if you want to kind of do two things at one time, you can do your book piece, and then on your own just work through the lab sim as well, knowing that your grade will be based on the hands-on simulations. They're great simulations. You'd think you're on an actual Windows 7 machine, but it's just a simulation. And as far as scoring goes, you can repeat these activities as often as you like, and I just take your highest score. That's a lab sim. Okay. Now, as long as this next screen popped up, I did mention that you have access to a number of resources. The DreamSpark accounts for operating systems, the VMware Academy to get your VMware workstation for free. You also have a CBT Nuggets subscription, which gives you, it's amazing, it gives you access to every video that this company CBT Nugget makes. So for example, vendor, I'll go by vendor. You want to learn about Cisco? Well, CBT Nuggets can beat Cisco to death. Everything from wireless to CCNP to it's amazing what's out there. We've got content on Microsoft, Linux, Apple, and it's truly amazing. Amazon Web Services. I haven't even looked at this, but I'm sure that's pretty cool stuff. So our class is a Microsoft class, and there's 76 courses in the Microsoft library. So I guess I could sit through and kind of sift through and look for Windows 7 to pop up, or I could look at the front of my book and I could see that our class maps to Microsoft Exam 70-680. So if I just do a search on 70-680, I think to me this is the most handy way for me to search through CBT Nuggets library. I can just select the Windows 7 70-680 video series, and they've encountered an error. Well, isn't there a first for everything? Let's try this one more time, Mr. Fader. Interesting. Well, end of life, Microsoft is saying Windows 7 end of life is the year 2020. And I think CBT Nuggets says we're taking a break for a while. Anyways, you can check that out on your own, but that's a great demo, isn't it? I'll give another example real quick. And maybe this will make things even more confusing. But the next class that you take at MATC is Server 1, which maps to Microsoft Exam 70-410. And they're just all out to lunch. All right, well, I apologize for that, but we'll move on. You'll see a number of videos then, probably about 20 or 30 videos that map to our exam 70-680. Back to the syllabus. All right, so if you're zoning out right now, hit pause, go get a cup of coffee. I've already talked about the student software. As far as getting it again, if you go to my website, you click on you click on student software, and here are all the main logon links to the Nuggets, DreamSpark, and the VMware Academy. Let's see, I had one of those senior moments where I forgot what I was going to say. If you want to kind of learn about how to use these resources, if you just go into the resources link, I've created a screencast on, like, as an example, accessing this DreamSpark site, how to access and download software from the VMware site, how to access your CBT Nugget videos. So I did create videos on how to access these products, and I'll have to remember. Hopefully, by the time you watch this video, I remembered. You all also have access to a free subscription of Office 365, which will allow you to download the Microsoft Office suite on up to 5 devices. And I will have to add that link to this page before I go home tonight. So, okay. There's more to come. Here we go. Well, you can read the stuff about our library. Supplies. What do I need for the class? Well, I've already spent some of your money. You bought a book and you bought a lab sim product. If you want to be able to retain your virtual machines or be able to move them around from computer to computer, I recommend you get an external USB drive. And I'm not talking about a thumb drive. Those are they don't work well for virtual machines. The read-write time is nowhere near as fast as an external USB drive like this. Basically, what one of these drives has is it has like a laptop hard disk in it, and the pricing has dropped. So what we're looking at $50 now, or $55, free shipping. They're fast for a 1 terabyte drive. It does have USB 3.0, which is really important when you're talking about copying the size of files that we have with virtual machines. All of our virtual machines are at least 10 gigabytes in size once they're created. If you come to our lab to copy our pre-configured virtual machines, you're going to see that for ITNET 110, it's an 80 gigabyte copy, so it'll take a little bit. And it'll take even longer if it's USB 2.0 that you're copying across. All right. I'll come to this later. Let's see here. All right. So how do I figure out what grade to give you in 16 weeks? Well, you've got several assignments. We saw those posted under assignments here. 1, 2. There's 3 assignments. I'll talk about the lab sim piece in a bit as far as the grading goes. And the assignments are pretty straightforward. This one entails posting to a discussion board. This one entails posting to this discussion board and getting your virtual environment set up, posting to a discussion board, and finally just doing your lab sims. And like I said here, you must complete 90% of the hands-on activities in your lab sim, not the whole thing, just the part with a little mouse out front. And there's a list of them. So we go back to the syllabus. Assignments are a piece of your grade. Review tests, where are those? What are those about? Well, if I go under review tests here, each week you're going to cover a chapter out of your textbook, and there's a weekly review test. You can only take this, unlike the lab sims, which you can do any number as often as you want, or as frequent, repeat as often as you want. You get one shot at the review test, and then basically you can just have your book open, and I'm just kind of forcing you to dig through your textbook and find the answers to some questions in each chapter. So those are our review tests. I have a midterm and a final hands-on exam. How do you do a hands-on exam in an online course? Well, here's what I did. If I jump back under assignments, and let's take a look at the midterm or final. Here's the midterm. It's a Google Doc. You're going to open this Google Doc up on your own, and you will make a copy of it. So you'll select File, Make a Copy, which will create your own copy of this document. And for the midterm, you're going to do activities 1 through 15. Pretty much wherever you see a screenshot, wherever you see yellow highlighting, you're going to either add a screenshot or add an answer, or both. So let's see here. So steps 1 through 15. This is probably no longer accurate. Let me get rid of this here. There. I forget I'm in view only mode here. Anyways, step 1. I have you configure 2 machines and change their machine names to W71, W72. You got a screenshot for each computer. You do an IP config, figure out what the IP address is on one of your machines, record, do a screenshot, and then record the information there. And you just walk through this step by step by step, and wherever you're seeing some highlighting, you're adding a screenshot or answering a question. I'll warn you. I'll tell you what. The hardest part is hardest questions are number 4 and 5 on the midterm, and I've kind of debated over leaving these questions in or not. My thought is the following questions, don't rely on that you do this successfully, but I just want to see what it's kind of like a research type question, and I've given you a ton of material, like a 5 2-minute videos. I made a Google Doc that walks through a lot of the steps, so I've given you all the tools to do these activities. So I just want to see if you can do it, and I just kind of figure it's good practice for working in IT. A lot of what employers want are not someone that can follow steps exactly, but kind of figure things out. And I figure like questions 4 and 5 are, how is this person at doing research and figuring things out? Okay. So once you've completed this it, you just share this Google Doc with me, email me a link to it, and I grade it, and that's how I come up with your midterm. And then eventually, by the end of the semester, you're going to work all the way. I think steps 1 through 15 are the midterm, and then steps 16 through 24 are the final exam. So that's kind of how I came up with the final and midterm for our course. And the lab sims, which I've already talked about. So just the hands-on activities, and that'll get it done for you. And I do have a note, if you want to add 10% onto your grade, if we jump back to the lab sim product, there actually is a practice certification exam in there. And if you do a 90% or better on it, you will get 10% more on your final grade. So that's a full letter grade. Let's see if I can find that. There we go. So if we jump down, Windows Client Pro Practice Exam, not these bottom two here, but just their practice exam. And if you go to the bottom here, Windows Client Pro Certification Practice Exam, you hit that, and you'll see you have 2 hours to do 15 questions with a 95%. Well, forget the 95%. So what does that mean? That means that basically these 15 questions are just 15 simulations randomly chosen from the lab sim product that you've in theory been working on all semester. So, you know, that's what it is. Just to see if how well you can do on 15 simulations. And you can take this as often as you like as well. So if you're curious, I mean, I know it's week 1 of the semester. We'll just fire up this practice exam and check it out, and that'll give you an idea of some of the simulations that you'll be working on this semester. There's no penalty for trying it out now. That's good. Okay. Okay, I've already talked about the midterm and the final, and that you'll need 2 virtual machines to do the midterm and final, just like you'll need 2 VMs to do your hands-on activities out of your book. I've already mentioned the lab notes. We've talked about that a little bit here. It's a bit overwhelming, I have to admit. I look at this and I think if I was a new student, I'd be a bit overwhelmed. But and I apologize. My thought on this is, I wanted to create an online class where at the end of the semester the student had learned some very practical skills that they could apply on the job when they graduate and go out and get a job. And what that means is you have to do hands-on activities to get those skills. So we went, I wanted my students to do all the labs in the book, but some of the labs didn't work for whatever reason. The author just didn't know we were running on virtual machines or whatever. So, then I created these notes to help a student do the labs activities in the book. And I also created some pre-configured virtual machines to help a student do those activities. So that's kind of why, that's why there's a lot here. I think if you give it a shot, and if you track with me in the course when I tell you to do the lab setup assignment, if you give it a swing and you do it, then you'll come back to this chapter 1 here and it'll make sense. So, and again, I am always available for questions. So just let's not don't get overwhelmed. Well, I guess you can get overwhelmed, but just recognize it'll make sense eventually. Um, Grading breakdown, it's just 20% for the hands-on activities, the lab sims, 10% for your assignments, review test, final exam, and midterm. What this tells me is, as far as the percentages go, half your grade comes from those weekly review tests. So make sure you get those done in our class. And the lab sims, again, like if you miss any one of these, it's a significant penalty. For example, if you decide I'm not doing the lab sims, I don't want to deal with it. Well, that's 20% or 2 full letter grades if you don't work on the lab sims this semester. So pay attention to that. Late assignments, pretty standard. If you're late by a week, 10%, 2 weeks, 20%. More than that, you can keep it. But with all that said, I'm not heartless. I recognize that kids get sick and cars break down and computers crash and all that. So if something happens, let me know and I can be flexible on it. But what I don't want is a person that skips all this stuff and all of a sudden they come to me a month later and say, "Well, can I get caught up now?" And I didn't feel like working or whatever it is. But um, but if someone on the front end says, I've had students, and this is a real thing, Pat, I'm getting married. Can I, can I have another week on the assignments? Well, of course, I'm not gonna say no to that. Pat, I had the flu at home, whatever it is. I'm flexible, but just let me know on the front end. Don't approach me after the fact. Okay, so here is the most important part of the syllabus. Why? Because this lays out every week for the semester. So actually, well, every 2. In this case, I kind of clumped the first 2 weeks together. There's so much. But here, as a student in ITNET 110, section 900, what are you going to do? Well, for the first 2 weeks, you are going to be responsible for by February 1st, getting assignment number 1 done. We talked about that already. by February 8th, completing the review tests for Chapter 1 and 2 and the lab setup assignment. And this is the perfect lead into, well, actually, to look at the lab setup assignment again. Lastly, I mean, obviously, if you're taking the review test for Chapter 1 and 2 in the first 2 weeks, I'm going to expect that you're going to read Chapters 1 and 2 out of your textbook, right? And then, as promised, I let you know which lab sim modules or chapters relate to chapters 1 and 2 in your book. So if you do chapter 1 out of your lab sim and then 6.1 through 6.5 out of your lab sim, that'll kind of cover the same material that you read in chapters 1 and 2. Also, just because, if a person wants to learn more, I do list out which CBT Nuggets from that series that we talked about would map to chapters 1 and 2, and they're here. Some of these are links. Well, they'll just open up. At least they used to work. Sometimes these companies change their sites, like now, so it's not going to work. Um, I'm just curious to see if this is if their site is up and working yet, or if they're still having their internal server error. There we go. So the 70-680 video series consists of 26 videos, and if I could jump back at the syllabus, I was saying that the clean install and the upgrade and migration videos would complement what you've read in chapters 1 and 2. So there is a clean install and an upgrade and migration. So you'd watch those two as well. My goal, I mean, I think your goal should be just watch, at the very least, just watch one a week. If you're doing that, you're at least kind of there's always something coming in besides just, in addition to what your textbook and the lab sim. All right, so those are the first 2 weeks, and let's just revisit that lab setup assignment. Here it is. And what I wanted to show you is, obviously, I'm saying you're going to create two virtual machines. They should be able to talk to each other. I give you a quick overview on VMware again if you watch the screencast, the lab setup assignment. This right here, so this document walks you through how to get our virtual machines. If I open it up, so I'm saying if you'd like, you can stop by the South Campus Academic Support Center, and there's 4 computers. They're 4 Z400s, they're kind of the far corner of the room. And if you go to their eDrives, they have an ITNET 110 folder. Just copy it. It's 80 gigabytes, and stick it on your external USB drive, one of those, and you will have our virtual machines. You can check out the Milwaukee campus. You can stop by my lab during office hours, or if you want to check out your internet connection, you can actually I did set these up in Dropbox, and you could just download all 8 of these or all 7 of these files. Now, with that said, I would not try this at home. I mean, I have a decent internet connection at home. I mean, for what I pay, it should be decent, and I got some download issues, and my kids yelled at me because Netflix stopped working. They kind of brought the whole house to a crawl, and it took me over 8 hours to get these downloaded. I came to school, with MATC's amazing internet connection, and I think I got all 8 of these files in under an hour. I want to say, like 40 minutes or some crazy amount of time. So it's far better to just, I think, to stop by a campus and do a download, or stop by someplace that's got a really nice internet connection. Once you've downloaded all those pieces, because our VMs are it was an 80 gigabyte folder, so we kind of compressed that folder and broke it up into a bunch of chunks, 8 gigabyte chunks. I have the steps here then on how to reassemble them. Different ways of doing it. One way is you select all the files that you've downloaded. I have a screenshot for ITNET 112, which has only 3 files. So basically, you highlight them all, you right click on it, you go to 7-zip, extract to, a little, and that's it. And it just decompresses and extracts all the files. It's going to take a while. I think it took like 30 minutes to decompress on my machine because there was a lot of number crunching going on there. But that was it. Okay. Okay, I have way too many tabs open, don't I? My apologies. Okay. Okay, so that's what you do the first 2 weeks. Then if we kind of just track along for a few weeks after that, February 15th, since it sounds dangerously close to Valentine's Day, review test for Chapter 3 is due on the 15th. And I've kind of linked some lab sims to it. If you want to work in the lab sims that week, you should. And a CBT Nugget as well. So every week I'm laying out what's due and then what you should be doing to get there. Read the book, do some lab sims, check out a CBT Nugget, and then if I ever find any interesting links along the way, I'll just stick them in here. So this part of the syllabus changes throughout the semester. As I delete old dead links and add new ones to it. And if you do that, by the end of the semester, you would have done everything to get an A in the class, right? I believe that's it. I'm just checking my notes real quick to make sure I didn't forget anything. Let's see here. So I figured 80% of the class already they already they've closed this tab out. So thanks for listening. Um, this is just kind of something I would do if I was taking the course as a student. Is I would print out that final exam that we mentioned earlier. I'd stick it in my book, and every now and then I'd look at it, and as I'm reading my chapter in my textbook, if I see something that relates to the final exam, I would just kind of pencil the page number in or make a note in there. So that way, when it comes to doing the midterm or final, you have all you can have all the pieces you need in one spot. If you're having problems setting up your virtual machines, please talk to me. I can help you. We have lab assistants. I really want to make sure that although you're taking the class online, that you're getting the same hands-on experience that a face-to-face student would get. I appreciate your time and dedication to watching the screencast. I know it was long. If you're listening to me right now and I sound like Mickey Mouse, that probably means you put me in double speed, right, on YouTube. But thanks again for listening and have a super day. And I look forward to a great semester with you. Thanks.